September 22nd, 2012, Michigan Avenue and Seacat Street, Southwest Detroit, about 2 miles outside of downtown. Rosalind Bailey and Elena Cuevas are pulling up to a guy named Michael Figueroa's house. It's Rosalind Barley's boyfriend, and Elena Cuevas is her 15-year-old little sister. Miguel comes out, gets in the car, bang, 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 shots start shattering the glass. She claimed when she testified in court that she looked across the street, saw a man named Alexander Anzari holding a long rifle and shooting. Figueroa jumped out of the car, the guy, he leaves the 2 girls in the car and runs. The man with the long rifle supposedly shoots him again, and Rosalind Barley pulls off and stops at a nearby fast food and sees that her 15-year-old little sister's turning white. The ambulance comes, she's deceased. Detroit police assign a homicide detective to the case, Moises Jimenez. Evidence he gets from the victims and supposedly some anonymous tips. They arrest this guy, Alexander Ansari, but not before the brother of Miguel Figueroa, her boyfriend that got shot when she was picking him up on Seacat, he gets killed 4 days after the 15-year-old girl gets killed. So this Alexander Ansari is a suspect in both cases, and he's put on trial and charged with both homicides. Elena Cuevas case, and he's found guilty. He beats the case for killing Miguel Figueroa's brother, Tommy Edwards. I don't know how a guy named Miguel Figueroa has a brother named Tommy Edwards, but welcome to Detroit. So he gets mandatory life, no parole in prison, which is what you have to get for first-degree murder in Michigan. But of course, the story doesn't end there.
Our next guest is Alexandre Ansari, who was wrongfully accused of fatally shooting a 15-year-old girl in Detroit back in 2013. His attorney, Wolf Mueller, who also joins us now, helped Alexandre win his exoneration and a historic $10 million verdict. We thank you both so much for being here. Alexandre, you served more than 6 years of a life sentence for a murder you did not commit. You always maintained your innocence. How does it feel to finally get justice in your case?
Alexander Ansari just made the national news because he was exonerated and he got one of the biggest payouts ever from the city of Detroit.
The claim was the detective in charge, Jimenez, purposely left out information about the real killer with ties to a Mexican cartel. It's alleged he was fearful the cartel would go after his family members in Mexico.
So that's right, he's getting $10 million because it wasn't just that they accidentally convicted him or a witness lied. Witnesses did lie. But Moises Jimenez is probably under the scope of federal law enforcement now and looking to be charged. I'm sure he's being heavily investigated, or I at least hope so. He's no longer a homicide detective for Detroit. He quit. He's suing the city, saying he's discriminated against for being Mexican. But during the civil hearing where Ansari was awarded $10 million for wrongful conviction, it came out that Jimenez was contacted by the FBI, and they pretty much gave him a suspect, this guy, Jose Sandoval, that some other anonymous tips were saying was involved. Jose Sandoval was another ex-boyfriend of Rosalind Barley. The FBI had a wiretap going. It came out that he was like a block away from the murder of Elena Cuevas. Well, his phone was on like 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after. It's like, you know, he scoped him, told the shooters, turned his phone off or something like that. Who knows? He hasn't been charged, so I'm not going to say what happened. But the FBI and some other investigation revealed Rosalind Barley and her boyfriend, Miguel Figueroa, and probably the deceased brother, Tommy Edwards, stole 3.5 bricks of heroin. Now, this is back in 2012. This is pre-fentanyl. I don't know exactly what a kilo of heroin went for back then, but gotta be 60,000 wholesale. So you're looking at a $200,000 theft. I mean, by the time 3.5 bricks hits the streets, I mean, even if it was not the greatest, it had to be close to $1 million worth of stuff. So shooters were out. Now, Moises Jimenez, the detective assigned to this case, was supposed to want to not just clear the case, but actually get the guilty parties. He tells the FBI, I don't really want to know about it. He doesn't pursue any of that stuff. Then he's pressed more and more about why he didn't investigate properly, and he let these victims lie and say they saw Alexander Ansari. Because there was some other witnesses on the block, people who looked out the window and said it wasn't him. But Moises Jimenez, during the trial, basically described the witnesses who said they saw someone other than Alexander Ansari as being not dependable and seemed like they were lying. So Ansari was convicted, like I said, in the Cuevas case. So during the civil trial, comes out that there was this investigation against this Jose Sandoval. Jimenez didn't want to know about it. Then he admitted, well, he did know about Sandoval and the fact that probably Rosalind Berry and her boyfriend stole, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of drugs from him, and that he had hitmen looking for him. But he didn't want to mess with Sandoval, because Sandoval, he knew who Sandoval was all along, because he says Sandoval knew who he was and knew who Moises Jimenez's family was in Mexico, and Jimenez says his family might have been killed in Mexico if he had pursued charges against Jose Sandoval in Detroit. Pretty wild story. Is it believable? I've never, there's many Hispanic, Mexican, American homicide detectives around the country. I've never read about anyone saying this before. How would this drug dealer, let's just say we believe Jimenez, how would this drug dealer know such intimate detail? Jimenez is a very common last name. How's he gonna know who this guy's relatives are? I don't know. Doesn't sound too believable to me. If you ask me, maybe he knew Sandoval all along. And this was a cover-up, just like went on in the White Boy Rick days when he claims he witnessed Johnny Curry pay off Gil Hill and all that story. So yet another tale of corruption from Detroit police. But this guy got $10 million. Jimenez is currently, this is his LinkedIn profile. Like I said, he has a lawsuit against the city. City's already paid out $10 million to Alexander Ansari. Jimenez is trying to get a lawsuit. I would imagine he's being investigated by federal law enforcement for the things he said on the stand. I don't know what went on with any case against Jose Sandoval, the Detroit drug dealer at the center of this. I did find a Jose Sandoval that was released from federal prison earlier this year. He's 40 years old, and he had a 3-digit suffix of O-9 on his prison number. You can always tell what state or what district court someone's sentenced out of by the last 3 digits of their number. So Eastern District of Michigan, where Detroit is O-9. So there's a Jose Sandoval, 40 years old, O-9 just got out. Probably was him. So that was back in 2012. I don't know if he was in since then or whatever. Pretty disturbing case. Murder's the most serious crime. You would hope in a city that at least murders are getting handled properly, especially that of a 15-year-old girl. But hey, cops don't make very much money, especially nowadays. I'm sure those guys look at TikTok influencers and be like, these people make $10,000 a month and I solve murders and I make, $7,000 a month. I don't know, but the case of Alexander Ansari is one of many exonerations going on in Detroit that aren't just your run-of-the-mill bad witness identification, here's some new DNA. There's something at Detroit Police Headquarters called the Ring of Snitches. They had jailhouse informants, I think one or two of whom was dying of AIDS. They kept them up in the police headquarters, brought them drugs, heroin and crack cocaine. While they were in jail, the police would bring them to them, and they would take them back and forth to court to testify against many people who they would claim, said they admitted it. I think there was one of these guys in Alexander Ansari's case. Though this ring of snitches thing I'm talking about is back from the mid-90s. But a bunch of guys have been getting out from this specific set of stuff. And as for Moises Jimenez, there's another case involving him. Another young black male, a guy who was 19 named Nixon. He just got released. He went in when he was very young. He was convicted of a firebombing in which 2 children died. Nixon has been totally exonerated. I don't know why Jimenez, if that was just sloppy police work or he had some agenda or he fell victim to, witnesses. Family members lie. In the case of the Nixon case, the people in the family thought Nixon did it and they lied and said they saw him around the house. Either way, Nixon's getting a lawsuit too. Nixon now works to help overturn other cases. And if you're interested in this case, go back and watch my Kenyell Brown story. But 2 years ago, a guy went on a murder spree around Detroit. He killed 6 people that we know of in the space of a couple weeks while he was basically supposed to be in prison. He was a guy that had been to prison. He got out long before he was supposed to get out. Kept getting caught with guns in different municipalities, drugs. Somebody kept coming and getting him out of jail. DEA says it wasn't them. ATF says it wasn't them. Detroit police says it wasn't them. FBI says it wasn't them. But who was it? And this guy killed 6 people while he was supposed to be in jail, and they had finally decided they were going to bring him in. And of course, conveniently, when they closed in on him, took himself out. So Kenyell Brown, go check that out. But a lot of scary stuff involving the Detroit Police Department. You don't want to get in their crosshairs as a target, even on a personal level. So free Alexander Ansari till it's backwards, and it's backwards, and he's got $10 million. Out profit, American dope. Be careful who you steal from.